We are in the bunker,
I'm moving,
ready to do some work.
making sounds.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Take It or Leave It podcast show. That's right, we're back in the bunker, ready to talk Mandalorian, episodes number 6, 7, and 8, season 2, episode 65. Jalen, hit the music. That was amazing. That was probably better than our original.
It's stuck in my head.
It's
stuck in my head.
That's great because that actually is on the stream.
Yeah, yes. That is awesome. Like everybody now gets to hear nothing
that's
but
amazing.
That.
I couldn't do it again if I tried now.
Oh no, I'm sure you could. I'm sure that if we had enough, if we just went into silent mode,
it would just start over again.
Jalen would start just making noises with his mouth, like the whole time. That's what he would be doing.
A regular old Bismarcky over here.
I'm just
I'm trying.
A little. You're reaching a little.
I do love that part of Men in Black 2, though. When they go into the post office.
Ooh.
That's so cool.
Boys, start with you, Josh. How was your week?
My week was fantastic. I actually had a really good week.
Really?
Well, most of it. I did have to fix my house last week.
You had some siding problems, right?
Yeah.
Well, what happened exactly? This wasn't you weren't attacked by rabid squirrels or anything like
no.
that.
It was rabid bears.
Oh, yeah.
It's even
Crazy
worse.
bears.
Yeah.
Even
No,
worse.
just a windstorm blew off a bunch of stuff. I had to spend a.
Did you insulate again and everything like that,
Yeah.
or did you just
Well, a little bit. There's already siding underneath the siding because it was an add-on to modernize it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I don't have to do it. I didn't have to do a whole lot.
Reside it and be done with it?
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
Jalen, what about you?
I've got one piece of siding missing off my house, but it's not a whole bunch. Or are you talking about my week? I got you. Okay. My week was pretty good. I can't remember it. It was a blur. I just worked.
I'm surprised you said that because this week we've had a tragedy in the sports world. Actually, I'll say there was a tragedy in the world in general. Kobe Bryant passed away along with, what was it? How many others?
8 others.
8 others, including his
His
daughter.
daughter,
Yep.
and a couple of coaches from local colleges, I think.
Now, have they ever decided what was causing the issue or what was the issue?
So the official report is that, he took his helicopter everywhere, so it wasn't weird for them to be on it. They were headed to his daughter's game with that coach that was for the college baseball team. His daughter plays on that team, and another girl also played, 3 players. And there was a lot of fog in Los Angeles that morning to the point where they were calling whatever local air traffic control. They were having a hard time getting a hold of them. It was to the point where the local PD had grounded their helicopters and no one was out there.
So wait a minute. So it was dangerous conditions to fly in.
Yes. Not to the point where I don't think it was one of those things where it's we got up here and now we have to turn back around. I think it was one of those things where the further out they got, it was it's a lot thicker than we expected. So they circled, I think, LA Zoo or something for a long amount of time. And it was about 15 minutes before they got a hold of somebody. When they lowered to get to a point where it was visible for them, that's when they ended up on the side of that smaller mountainside. So
tragedy.
It is. Yeah.
Not just for the loss of a famous basketball player, but the loss of life in general. And it's a shame, especially for something that some would say would be an avoidable loss of life.
For sure, and it was such a shock. Not just that he was young. The night before, his name was all over the sports world because LeBron was passing him in number 3rd on the all-time scoring. So everybody was talking about Kobe literally 16 hours before all that. So. I think that was the weirdest part.
Yeah, it was the
guy just tweeted.
And now he's done. Man.
Yep.
Some other. Well, let me ask this question: is Donald Trump still the president? There's been a lot of talk about impeachment. There's been a lot of talk, and this is as of what is it? We're on January the 30th.
The 30th.
2020, and he's still the president. Okay.
Yep.
And you guys will probably get this 3 weeks from now.
You
probably will. You'll know a lot more than
the tragedy that is me uploading episodes to the podcast. It's terrible. It is horrible. But we're lucky enough to have fans who actually will wait and listen.
They're committed.
Yeah, which is nice. It's really nice. Let me ask this, just because I feel like it's we got to cover it. Is he going to get impeached? Yes or no, Josh?
He was impeached.
I'm sorry. Is he going to be removed from office? You are right.
I still don't think he's going to be removed from office. They may or may not introduce witnesses, but they've only got like a certain number of hours they're allowed to debate this issue. And even after that, they have to convince some Republicans to vote to remove him from office.
That's not happening.
I don't think so.
Yeah, as much as it was lined out to be a bipartisan movement, they had 2 Republicans, the impeachment to impeach him, that voted yay. The rest of it was all the other side of the floor, so I don't think it'll get any more bipartisan after being stuck in that room over this and all that. So I think no as well.
Unless something comes out where he's just like accidentally tweets something like, "Oh yeah, I was totally trying to get that to happen that way."
Accidentally, right. Or if he actually just tweets it out like, "I was trying to get Ukraine to give me the dirt." Yeah, like.
And you feel
I could totally see him doing
that. Of course,
he is an ultimate troll. I will tell you that. Well, but not just the troll that's there.
Not even trolling though. Like he is so unpredictable as far as I won't say his policy, but as far as his social media.
Yes,
you have no clue what you're gonna get at any.
No.
Like I actually I created a Twitter account and followed him because he is so unpredictable because of the ridiculous things he does. Like only reason I got Twitter is like, I'm gonna follow this guy
because of the ridiculous things he
does.
That
is exactly right. That is exactly right. Did any of you guys happen to watch? This would have been 2 weeks ago. Conor McGregor make his comeback in the UFC.
I did not.
A lot of people blinked and missed it because I think it was
40 something seconds.
Yeah, 40 seconds in, and honestly, if you watch the fight, a lot of people were saying the head kick is kind of what ended everything. If you watch, they're in the clinch, and Conor McGregor hits Donald Cerrone with 2 shoulder shots. Hits him with his shoulder to the face.
Breaks his nose.
Yeah, this dude's nose is leaking. Is not even this. It doesn't even describe it.
Using blood.
Actually, the first hit was the thigh to the face.
Yep, thigh to the face.
Which
that didn't
That's
help.
not fun for anybody. No.
That was the first hit.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was moving straight into it. And...
Yep. Ate it. I mean, he literally just ate it. So there's that.
But I have never seen anybody use the shoulder push like
that.
Not like that.
But so Conor's back. Allegedly, I don't know. Apparently, there's a war going on right now between Joe Rogan and Stephen A. Smith. Are you aware of this?
I am not, but I pay good money to hear that. Stephen
A. Smith was a part of the broadcast team for the Conor McGregor Donald Cerrone fight, and I love Stephen A. Smith. Right? He's controversial. He says a lot of outlandish things. Yeah. But I don't think the guy knows anything about MMA. I think he knows about as much about MMA as I know about nuclear physics, okay? Like, I know
I would agree with that.
I know it's a thing.
They were like, we got nobody to do this that night. Send Steven.
Basically. And Joe Rogan kind of took the low road and made fun of Stephen A. Smith on his show. And Stephen A. Smith has commented back, so now it's this big war. And the latest was that Stephen A. Smith was saying that he would like to fight Joe Rogan, but I've got to tell you, I've got to tell you this right now.
Now, Stephen A. Smith, not that it helps him, he's kind of a big dude. Like, he's not a small man.
That doesn't help. Have you ever watched Joe Rogan kick anything?
No, I'm telling you, it doesn't help. But I'm just saying, for those who might think it's like even more of a David and Goliath kind of deal, but he's actually kind of a sizable man.
You want to jump in here, Josh?
Joe Rogan's just well trained.
He's a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a Gracie brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
So do you think it lasts as long as McGregor's fight did, or shorter?
Shorter. I think Joe Rogan head kicks him and is over. He's also he was on the U.S. Olympic team for Taekwondo. I mean, this guy, if you watch, he goes MMA fighters seek him out to learn how to kick correctly.
Wow.
So, a lot of guys make fun of Joe Rogan or whatever because he did the Fear Factor or anything. Joe Rogan is not a guy that I would want to get into any kind of altercation with whatsoever. And speaking of guys that I don't want to get into an altercation with, let's jump into our main topic tonight, The Mandalorian. Old Mando.
Bad man
that's
right there.
Right, that's right. We're going to pick up with episode number 6. Okay? Now, Jalen, you've been hyping this episode.
I have not hyped it. It is my favorite episode, though.
I heard, last week, as a matter of fact, I think we recorded, I think it's on the podcast that you can check out on Spotify or iTunes, right? It is on the episode. Episode 6 is my favorite. Episode 6 is my favorite. It is so good. So
I'm going to be Pele.
Since you love it.
That's what I thought when he was doing that.
Pele. Does Pele talk like that?
No, it's from Family Guy. The little kid is like, look at me, I'm Pele. Like, that's what you sounded like. Sorry.
I'm sorry. It's only because I can't do Herbert. The whistling old man. Any luck? No, nobody?
I got nothing. I'm not even going down that road.
Well, since you love the episode so much, why don't you go ahead and kind of give us, let's walk through, let's give us the synopsis on this thing.
So, I love this. I'll get into why I like it later. So, we pick up with Mando still trying to make money to continue his, what's the word I'm looking for, harboring of fugitive baby Yoda. In safe places, and he meets back up with someone from his past life. I forget the guy's name, but they used to run jobs together. Pretty much, no one asks questions, we get the job done sort of crew.
We were talking about, he was on Sons of Anarchy.
He
was, my goodness, which character was he?
I didn't watch it.
He was,
okay.
He was one of the characters on Sons of Anarchy,
Yeah, but they basically meet up, and he's got this newer crew that Mando's still kind of about, but they're like, hey, we want you to help us with this job. Mainly because your ship can't be detected by new Imperial stuff, and eventually gets to the point where they're going to a prison cruiser to pick up the one alien chick's brother and spring him out and bring him back. Along the way, though, we see them turn their back on Mando.
So, all right. So this is one of the classic. This is another episode that I feel like follows some very Western TV tropes, where the gunslinger is brought into a job. And you can kind of sense from the beginning that he's going to be betrayed by the crew of people that he's with. There's something not quite right here. And he gets betrayed.
Yep.
And one of the key plot devices in this episode, they're breaking onto and Josh, help me out here. It's a Republic.
It's a New Republic prisoner transport.
Yes. Okay, and it's supposed to be unmanned. All right, but they find there's one gentleman on this ship. And he has...
They tell Mandalorian.
That it's unmanned, yeah. Now, so whether it actually is or not, we're not really sure. But this, the gentleman that's piloting the ship, he has a device that if he pushes the button on this device,
everybody's showing up.
Yeah, it's going to signals the New Republic.
It's the ultimate panic button.
As a plot, they're going there to try to free a prisoner that's been caught.
Right. And if he pushes the button, that means something has gone wrong for the New Republic ship, and they send in, a rescue squad, right?
An attack squad, actually.
That's true.
Can we talk about? Let's talk about that, okay? So, the New Republic, in the overreaction of all overreactions, you think a prisoner transport.
So do you want to just go ahead and get into that?
Yeah,
part?
let's go.
This is the very
end.
I'm diving into it.
Let's do it.
So,
peel it backwards.
Oh, no. Okay, so, and we can kind of walk back from here on what happens. In the overreaction of all overreactions, we find out that the squad or the whatever the New Republic is sending is like 6 X-wings, armed to the teeth, photon torpedoes.
They're like 3.
There's only 3 of them.
Was there only 3?
Yeah, I think you're counting that one little ship that was inside the hangar before you.
I might. Yeah. So they show up, and they instead of you think they'd look at a transport ship with no weapons on it or anything like that, and
something completely defenseless,
and go, okay, we need to just secure it and wait for more people to arrive, or they would have sent more people to board the ship. No, it seems like they would have just showed up and just blew the whole transport ship to pieces.
Yeah, they shoot first, ask questions of the pieces later.
So it makes me wonder. Here's my thought.
No, okay, so in that scene, they're coming up to it. They're not in attack mode or formation at that point. One of them says they've got it looks like they're launching an attack ship. And that's whenever they go, the X-Wings spread out, and that's when they go into attack formation.
Here's my question, though, okay? You can look and be like, oh, it looks like they've got an attack ship. Like, but what if it wasn't? What if it was like the vegetable delivery ship?
Doesn't matter, they haven't shot anything in a while.
Have you played any of the X-Wing fighter games?
I have not. Is that pretty much how it works?
It was literally a scene out of one of those games. They're the same things. Like they're the same ships. Yeah, they were. It was fun to see.
So here's my thought though: is that maybe General Han Solo was in charge of that group, and he was just like, just shoot first, just
shoot
whatever,
it.
just
But
shoot it.
I do agree with you. It just seemed a little bit
Overkill.
But then again, it might be the response for one of those beacons. It might be a last resort.
I didn't even think about that. Like I didn't
That's
think
true.
that maybe that button's pushed and it just means nope, nuke the whole thing.
Because if you think about it, if that thing isn't just floating around in space for no reason, like you must have some like maximum security type of people possibly in there.
Well, and that point was proven by when the Mandalorian and the crew that he was with broke into the ship. There were several battle droids.
Oh yeah,
several
waves of them.
And so they had to deal with that. And then the Mandalorian gets betrayed and thrown into a cell. Okay. And this, I feel
after one of the better fight scenes that you see, where very beginning he just takes out a whole group of
like a squadron
droids, and just it's a really nice, well done.
It's one of my favorite things because he goes like the office where they do the point at each other with Dwight and Andy. That's what I felt like when he's shooting them all down in that hallway. Like all the action that you wanted in those hallways was pretty great.
It was except for here's where for me. This season, this whole show has been very formulaic, right? There's been kind of a formula that they're following. Once he escapes from being put into the cell,
I want to say something about that first.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so they spend the time to go find the command center so they can unlock the cell,
right?
And then they go to the thing. They're killing these droids. Mando's inside the cell. He kills a droid and just uses its arm to unlock the cell. Like, why didn't they do that at the very
beginning, right?
Oh, that's a good point.
Just unlock the cell with the guy with one of the robot arms.
Break one of the robot arms because they killed.
Maybe they thought they could do it with like less effort. I'm trying.
If you've already killed 30 of the robots, this is a good point.
And that like the Mando rips the droid's arm out. The one dude, I can't think of what.
The big giant, he was like
the double horns guy.
He was ripping like these things apart
like nothing, like they were butter.
Yeah. So like
I don't know.
All he had to do was
hold on.
Lean down, grab an arm off of one of the
Do you rip butter in half?
Yes, how often do you rip butter in half?
Well, when people refrigerate their butter, you need to break it up without a butter knife. You gotta snap some butter sticks every now and again.
I feel like that's a poor analogy for ripping.
I tried. We're wasting too much time with the analogy.
There you go.
What was it?
The big guy was Berg.
Yes, Berg.
You know, up to this point, the fight scenes were excellent. No. The fight scenes in the corridors with the droids, that to me that was one of the high points of the episode. They break formula though, okay? When the Mandalorian escapes from his cell, because they have it's almost like it becomes a Batman cartoon, right? Because the Mandalorian,
I love it,
kind of disappears into the shadows.
They do completely have a different tone than the whole rest of the season or any other episode.
Right, and he takes out each member.
Yes, actually, I would have compared it to more like the Alien. Like,
I actually had Predator in mind. Like I thought Predator type of deal in my notes. I could see
either of those working very well. I only thought Batman because at one point he was like up in the vents, kind of like John McClane, like go to the coast.
the flickering lights with the one bald dude though, like that whole scene was just so cold. Oh my gosh, I love it. But then you get to the point where Berg, like nothing defeats Berg up until a point. Like we thought it was going to be a callback.
I want to say one thing before you get too far into
that.
You mentioned Bill Burr, who I think is one of the better characters in the whole series. He plays a bald guy. Now I can't. Because I had these names up.
He's like, I got him.
Mayfield. He plays Mayfield. And I think that he is one of the best acted characters.
He was the leader of the strike squadron that the Mandalorian was with, right? Yeah. And I would agree with that. He this schmarmy, kind of like this, like scuzzy.
Yeah.
Like you could literally almost watch the scuzziness drip off of him.
But I didn't want to take away from your point too much.
Go ahead. You're good. No, I did like him. I also liked how he was kind of like War Machine equipped with the extra gun over the shoulder. That was pretty neat. My point was with Berg in that he gets back to the command center. He starts fighting him, and you think you're going to get back to episode 1, right? Where he shoots the switch on the door and it chops the dude in half. Although we don't see it, it's pretty much assumed when the body hits the floor. that guy didn't get chopped in half. Like,
no.
It was nuts that the fire to the face to the devil. Like, I thought that was kind of a weird message. Like, you put fire straight to the devil's face, and he just took it. Like, that was, I don't know, it was just kind of fun.
Sometimes these kind of shows play with those things and, like, try to give you, like, try to say, maybe this is where we get our ideas of the devil from.
Right.
These guys are resistant to fire or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like.
Well, here's my other thing, though, is in that moment, and I was thinking about this, in that moment, when the Mando, like, shoots him with the fire, does he not know enough? He's been around long enough. You think he knows enough about these species? He's like, this isn't going to work. Like, this is just a waste.
I feel like I've seen a decent amount through this show that I hadn't seen before in some respects.
No, I'm saying the Mandalorian himself.
Oh, himself. Yeah.
Like,
I can give
that character, could he have not ever come across?
Whenever he first sees him, like, he doesn't seem like he... I don't remember what it is, but there's, like, a split second where he seems like...
Yeah. There's not like an awareness.
Unawareness of that character.
That character. Yeah. Okay.
But I want to state right now that this has some. For me, this episode had some really high points, but it also had some really low points for me. And I felt like the low points actually took away. More high points. Episode. I just want to get
no. So let's go ahead and let's kind of dive into that. Okay, we've kind of covered. I feel like the gambit of the episode.
Yep.
And I'm gonna let you start it off. I'm gonna let you hit this up. So if you what were the lowest points?
We heard Jalen talk about some of the better things of the episode.
Yeah.
But the low points of the episodes, I think, while there was a couple of characters that were great, a lot of the characters, their motivations just did not make any sense.
They did not line up. Yeah.
And they were portrayed. I don't want to say badly, but it was bad. It was bad.
Are you speaking specifically of the female?
I was going to say.
Twilight?
I was going to ask you what her name was because I have that written down.
Okay. Who would you say were the worst acted characters or the worst portrayed characters?
Her brother.
Both of the Twi'leks.
No, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
And then the first guy that you meet, Rand, I guess his name, was also, I didn't like his portrayal. Like. It just didn't be believable. And I know that guy can act. I've seen him in other stuff.
Right.
But
He just didn't do anything for anybody.
Yeah. I think her takedown with Mando one-on-one with her was kind of a big point for me where you don't bring a knife to a Beskar steel fight. Yeah. Like, let's just be honest. You're not going to pierce through that throwing little cha-ching.
Actually, she does once.
She does. But I'm like,
she does get him in the shoulder once.
Yeah. Like, do you think you're going to get very far? I don't think so.
Yeah, no. But the way that she was acting, it was just like...
Yeah, it was like weirdly lustful / we might have a history together to sinister, I hate you.
I hate it.
Yeah, which is, like you said, there's some tropes of old Western, like the scorned lover chick at the saloon who turns her back on you.
The thing it was like a caricature of all of those emotions instead of actually just being a person that had a bunch of mixed emotions.
No, there
was no story behind it, really.
No, and they, I think... For me, the low points were that the tropiness. You know, it's very. You could almost, like I said, some of the other episodes we talked about, you could count out beat for beat what was going to happen.
It was a heist movie. It matched the heist.
Yes. Along with the, and I don't want to say poor acting because they're wearing this makeup, they're in there, they're doing a much better job than I could have ever done. Okay, so I don't want to belittle their performances. But when they're held up against some of the other performances that we've seen in this series and some of the other performances that we've seen in other TV shows and stuff, I agree with Josh. It just doesn't. There are certain characters that it's like either they just didn't understand the character or it just wasn't very fleshed out for them.
They were definitely a means to an end.
And we've been spoiling a lot, but big spoiler, why wouldn't he just kill him? What was it with keeping them alive?
Yeah.
Has this baby that he's been
softened
him so much that these people that tried to kill him, he wouldn't.
I was going to say that was going to be my only low point for me because everything was so epic to the fights and the takedowns that when you pan back to the prison and they're all in that cell, I'm just
I don't know. I almost think that is a worse punishment for them. That he was kind of like, this is their own personal hell because he's like, I could kill you.
I could see that, but he only has 5 minutes at this point.
That's true.
That's true to get out of there. It's probably more work to get them in the cell than it is just to blast them and move on.
And keep going. But I believe that I think as part of it is it's their own personal hell. Like this is, guess what? You were trying to avoid this, trying to put me in here. Well, now you're going to get a taste of your own justice, falling back into the same trope they were kind of following.
Right, I can give
the
you
whole
that.
time.
And then the unevenness again of the Mandalorian skill.
Mm-hmm.
Here it's like a 10.
Yeah, it's
like
elite.
he's the epitome of all of these fighters.
No, this is very true. He there's definitely some John Wick style action going on. I don't know. For me, let's go ahead and let's rank the episode. I think we're doing 1 to 5. So for me, this episode was a 3.5. I mean, it wasn't 4, but it had enough, bad things going for it that to me, I couldn't fully enjoy all the good points to the maximum amount. Josh,
we didn't mention Mayfield dropping. By the way.
Oh, no.
Which he did, and it was mean.
Yeah, it
he
was
should
fair.
not have done that.
Yeah.
No. Should not have done that whatsoever.
All right. Anyway, I'm gonna say 2.5.
Kind of.
So, I think that it had some really good points, but the character acting and the storyline itself, there was too many things that just didn't make sense to me. I just feel
arm,
I feel like it brought it down below an average level of a show.
Okay. I can get behind. I can almost agree with that. Like I rank it a little higher, but I'm almost right with you, Dalen.
Well, we got our evil Guardians of the Galaxy Prison Break episode, and I enjoyed it. One of my favorite parts was, Baby Yoda looking at his hand when he's about to go like all force on that droid that was in the ship when he found him, and when he blasts him, he's like, "Did I do that?" Like that was an innocent yet cool moment. And then after they get ready to leave and they blow up the bad guys and so on at the end of the episode, you see him kind of take the knob and give it to him and let him play with it. I'm like, oh, now we're entering full dad mode, Mando.
Right.
So I'm giving it a 4.5. I know. I told you it's my favorite episode, so I am looking over some things big time.
Goodness,
but you just see me on the couch. I was geeking out. I was just like, ooh, the lights are flickering.
I definitely could see that.
Yeah.
Like, if you're really invested in those moments that are really set aside, this thing's got a few really awesome moments.
It really does. But for me, and I think for Josh, those moments were just too far and few.
Yeah.
Between.
I can't look objectively at this one.
All right, so we move from there into the and you can almost call this the 2-part finale. Right. So episode 7 and episode 8. Jalen, start us off episode 7.
I actually don't remember how episode 7
episode
starts.
7,
I'm hoping to lean on Josh here.
They just show up on. Is it? No.
Well, they get a message.
What's the planet?
Let's back up. So they get a hologram message.
He gets a message
from Apollo Creed saying, "Yo, Rock, the fight is on. Come on back." No, they get a message from Apollo Creed telling them that they can work out a deal if he can meet him and maybe get them off of the bounty removed.
To kill if he comes and helps him get rid of the imps.
Right.
Yep. And so the Mandalorian, we don't know what he's going to do, but he goes and he gets Gina Carano.
Yep.
The ex.
I totally forgot about that one.
Yeah, he goes and gets Gina Carano, the ex rebel soldier or shock trooper. And then they also go and get one of my favorite characters. I have this is the Ugnaught.
Yes, Queel.
Who, man, I tell you what, for being, is he CG or is he physical effects?
He's physical.
Is he?
I think they might use a little bit of CG on him, but
okay.
I think that he's practical.
Man.
I think everybody in this is practical.
And the voice, Nick Nolte, is doing his voice. Amazing job. They go and they get Queel, and Queel has a couple conditions. He says, "I'll go with you, but you're going to take your buddy and mine."
Yep. And some bird.
Huh?
What are the animals?
IG-11.
The animals that they ride to.
Oh, no one cares about those.
I said they're taking your buddy, and I'm like, and they took
who cares?
the bird or border.
Your buddy and mine,
yeah.
Mr. Murder Machine himself, IG-11,
your favorite,
who's been reprogrammed at this point to be a nanny.
Yeah.
A nanny.
Your favorite robot in the galaxy is a nanny.
They spend 5 minutes at this point
Yes.
explaining
Yep.
that they can't just reprogram this robot. They
It's not
have
possible.
to get rid of all of his programming and then train
Relearn
it.
him. Right. And then literally, Josh is right. There's literally 5 to 7 minutes spent showing us this
On
robot.
a 30-minute episode.
Quill takes it personally.
No, he does.
Yeah, he's like, I know what I'm capable of doing, and he's a nanny.
Now, one thing that this does do is it's happened before in the series, but it shows you how much actual time has been passing, whereas the episodes don't ever express that this has been months,
Right.
maybe even years,
a long time, right?
But he shows him completely retraining this robot from the
Over
ground up.
a long span of time. I mean, we can see, dark light. There's a definite implied movement of time there. So they leave and they go back to the original planet with the guild, and we see they show up, and Apollo Creed was supposed to be by himself.
He says that he's going to have
a team.
Protection.
I'm sorry, you're right. He's supposed to have the Mandalorian though is supposed to be by himself, but he has his team as well. We have a standoff, and then everyone decides, okay, we're all going to work together. And they begin, and this is where this episode falls flat on its face. Okay, they go and we have the typical night scene that you get in a Western.
Yep.
And
these people don't have any clue
know.
what the dangers of their own planet are.
Right, like,
or it's a setup, let's just camp here for the night sort of deal. Let's not go into town.
I originally thought, because that's how the way they played it, I originally thought, okay, this is where, because we all knew there was going to be a betrayal. We're kind of I was like, okay, this is where the betrayal is going to be. But no, they get attacked by pterodactyls or something.
They remind me
but
of
that's what I meant. Like, if these guys were going to betray them and that was their plan, they wouldn't do it knowing.
They run the risk of also getting hurt. Yeah,
right. Like, it just doesn't.
These things are going to come in and mess them up.
Well, and here's the other thing that kind of surprised me is, okay, so they get attacked by these pterodactyls that have like poison talons or poison mouths or whatever. It amazes me. You're going to go fight. Okay, even though they're disgraced and they're on the run, you're going to go fight the Imperials, okay?
Right.
You're going to go fight the largest military this galaxy has ever seen.
At this point, it was a small force in the town, as far as they know.
As far as the Mandalorian knew.
Yeah.
Everyone else.
The other guy was originally just going to betray him,
right. But here's the thing.
Take him into the...
Even if you're going to betray him, right? You're out there in the wilderness, like you said before. This is your planet. You know these pterodactyl dinosaur. I don't even know what they are. Things exist. They're like the ring wraiths. Like if they stab you,
you're done.
You're done.
You got hit with a Morgul blade. Anyway,
and you'd think they'd bring more firepower.
Yeah,
because their guns, their weapons aren't really having that much effect on these things. I mean, literally, it's like BB guns against a rhinoceros, and the only thing that seems to be very effective is the Mandalorian and his flamethrower. So thank the Lord that they hadn't betrayed him by this point.
Yep.
And in all the melee, and this is it almost brought tears to my face. Okay.
Yeah.
Apollo Creed.
Yep.
Gets scratched or bitten.
You think it's his moment,
and he is down. He is poisoned.
He's freaking out too.
Yeah, he was kind of not handling it well.
His life. He's probably got some things.
I'm thinking, like, I begin to wonder if these dinosaur flying beasts were from Russia, if their last name was Drago, or something of that manner. But then, Baby Yoda, comes to the rescue. Okay, and we all knew this moment had to happen when he revealed his force ability, and this to me. Is the one force ability that I don't know that I can get behind.
Well, the force healing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he comes up to Apollo Creed and lays his little tiny.
Okay. So I'm gonna say this. I spent time. I've played a lot of the Star Wars, and I'm totally on board because there's an MMO called Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Okay.
And there are character classes that are healers.
They're Jedi.
Jedis and Sith healers.
I guess. I don't know.
And so, like, that was my character class, I was a Sith healer.
Okay.
And so I'm like, okay,
Doesn't that seem kind of ironic for a Sith to be a healer. Can we not?
It depends on the reasons
Yeah.
behind it.
Yeah, you might need it. And that was one of the things, like I told you, going into the Rise of Skywalker, they talked about how that was going to help tie into the movie, and I thought, man, really, is that the only thing that ties into this movie? And indeed, it was.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
Darth Plagueis, his main thing was creating an extended life.
Immortality. No. That makes sense to me. Okay, that makes sense to me. So he heals.
I just wanted to answer that specifically.
And I just wanted to say it. I love saying that.
So he heals Apollo Creed.
Yeah.
And
He's just mind blown.
They spent that whole 9 episode was to give them a situation for Yoda to be somehow the person that changes the fate of the rest of the series.
This was part of my low point for this episode, and it's something that I've continually said, the inconsistency with what Baby Yoda knows. So he is like one, at the beginning of the episode, you see him choke out Kara, I think her character's name is.
Oh, I forgot.
While they're arm wrestling,
That's
and
awesome.
he has to get her to let go, and you come to a moment where it's like he doesn't know a lot of right and wrong. He doesn't know what's too dark side, what's too right side, and I'm just like,
no.
And now you're healing people. Like, what's you're all over the place.
Let's go through.
Yeah,
the Force is the Force. How it's the intent behind the use is light side or dark side.
Okay, I
right?
get that.
And Baby Yoda was not. He was light. He is only light side. He was looking and he said, "Oh no, this lady is harming."
In a very Sith-like manner. With the only person we've seen
Luke
choke
Skywalker.
slamming people
Luke
was
Skywalker.
someone who got too emotional.
Luke Skywalker choked out the guards in Jabba's palace in Return of the Jedi. He goes in after he'd finished training. He's a Jedi Knight. He goes in and he goes, Force choke, and they both pass out against the wall. Then he walks in like he owns that place. So don't tell me.
Fair enough.
And
I put it synonymous with bad things.
You also have to remember that the Jedi Order and the Sith Orders turned into religions, and for centuries they came up with, over time, what was allowed and what wasn't.
Right.
And a lot of that stuff probably had more to do with politics than it did. Over time, a lot of politics are going to get involved in all religions, and how they react to whatever the original writings and thinkings were of those philosophical beliefs.
So don't go giving us your
I'm
light
just saying,
side, dark
they
side.
Place that. You can even listen to the music.
Labels.
You can listen to how
Yoda.
The music changes in that moment, and how they zero it, and they make it rather dramatic, as if this is something that we should be concerned about, because, and this is why they want him so bad, he's either going to be the greatest ally or the greatest weapon.
Do not.
And I think that's why they want him so bad.
Don't put that juju on him.
I'll put it all
Ricky
over
Bobby,
him.
you don't say that about him.
I'll dip him in it.
I will say that, what he does there would definitely be considered dark side.
It is. Regular Yoda would be
functionality.
Concerned I am.
Yeah.
He'd just be like, get him out of here.
But he doesn't mean
Don't even
anything
put
about it.
trials.
He kind of assumes that that they're being attacked, and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to protect."
But then that gets on my nerves.
If he would have force shoved her out of the bulkhead, would you have said light side or dark side?
Wait, you mean like outside the ship?
Yep.
Yeah, dark side. Because she goes.
He doesn't know that though. He's just like,
He knows when I do this, you can no longer breathe. So if I shove you into space, you can also no longer breathe.
I think it was more of a instinctual reaction than it was a thought.
I totally get the premise behind it.
If an animal sees a couple of adults getting a little bit,
your dog
they can start thinking that there's that they're fighting. And I can see that.
I get the intent behind it, and it just ties me back to there's too much inconsistency in what he knows and what he doesn't know, because just to speed us up to toward the end of this episode, we see our beloved Ognot, smoking as speeders ride off with a Baby Yoda in the sack and IG-11 somewhere on the ship, and you think, man, was he not wanting to protect
Okay,
I'm just thinking.
No, hold on. Let's get there. Let's get there.
All right.
So we end with the campfire. Baby Yoda heals Apollo Creed.
Mm-hmm.
Apollo Creed escapes death's door. All right.
Mm-hmm.
They continue to march towards the town,
Mm-hmm.
and right before they're getting ready to reach the outskirts of the town, Apollo Creed pulls out his blasters, and you think he is going to take a shot at the Mandalorian.
His name is
Greef Karga.
No. Apollo Creed. Apollo Creed or Dylan.
Or
There are
Dylan.
no two other Dylan.
I have a question. How do you guys feel about
Or Chubbs.
Carl Weathers' portrayal, with the vocals and stuff that he
I
does?
really enjoyed that character. Yeah, I thought the character was very well done. It was.
You got a bone?
I thought that his accent sounded forced and just.
He did sound like he was narrating a video game. Oh, traveler, time to go. I get some of that, but I enjoyed it. So he pulls out his blasters, and he smokes his own entourage.
Yeah.
And then he's like, all right, Mando, I was going to betray you.
Mm-hmm.
But because Baby Yoda is so awesome.
And saved my life.
Yeah, I can't do that. Here's the new plan. Let's go into town. Let's smoke the leader. And let's get that bounty removed. And they say, okay, we're going to do that. They send the Ugnaught with Baby Yoda back to the ship. So him, IG-11, Queel, IG-11, and Baby Yoda will be back at the ship. IG-11 is already back at the ship at this point.
All right. Time frame wise, I want to just do this.
Yeah.
They send him back, and I'm just going to state it doesn't break anything. It doesn't go to nightfall, but he's almost at the ship when he's smoking. And somehow they had more than a day's travel, which, why would you park a ship more than a day's travel away from where you're going?
Mm-hmm. Unless you don't want to be spotted. I can understand. There's some...
A day, though? I could see a couple hours.
Okay.
And maybe it was an indirect route,
Okay.
Going around the big sand dunes, maybe another couple hours.
All right. So they go into town.
Good point, though.
They go into town.
Mm-hmm.
The Mandalorian is posing as a prisoner.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They meet the head Imperial.
That's called the Chewbacca.
Yes. It is.
Yeah, it is.
They pretend that Mando's a prisoner. They meet the head Imperial.
The
but
client.
Before they can finish the deal, a stormtrooper squad outside opens fire and kills all the Imperials inside the building. And we learn that this guy was not the main baddie.
He is not the headest of honchos.
No.
Well, first we see the TIE fighter.
Yes.
I'm sorry. We see the shooting happen first,
and then
we see the TIE fighter descend, and they've got these folding.
Yes,
wings.
it's called the Outland. It's called the Outland TIE.
I did not know that.
Which is also very.
You didn't know what?
That they had the folding, because anytime I've ever seen them,
it's a new model.
They don't.
Actually,
the original TIE fighters couldn't land. So the idea here is they've upgraded them and made them able to land. Because if you remember, the TIE fighters were always around the Star Destroyers or the Death Star, and they had cranes that would pick them, grab them while they were flying, and stow them.
Right.
They couldn't actually land.
Mm-hmm.
So it lands, and out comes Grand Moff Gideon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and he announces.
I don't think he's a Grand. I think he's just a Moff.
Well, either way, he's got a lot more pull than what we typically see of Imperial brass,
which means that he's like an admiral.
He's up there, yeah. He's personally attending to what his guys are doing, which you don't often see.
Right, and he has with him an Imperial Death Squad, which we saw in Rogue One, which was really cool. The blacked out, murdered out stormtroopers that are there that apparently can shoot and hit stuff.
Yeah.
Unlike normal.
I can't wait to get to number 8.
So okay. And we see he announces who he is. He announces that he knows who's in the area there, which is the Mandalorian.
Yeah, he calls them all out by name, which means that he actually knew,
has some familiarity,
not just with them, because he never sees them.
Thing.
The
whole thing.
He doesn't ever see them, and the shock trooper Gina, it just
you can't explain that.
Yeah,
she wasn't known to be coming there.
Right.
And he's just yeah, I know she's in there.
Yeah, well, I've got
it never explains that, but he was also. They do explain that he used to be one of the members of the intelligence
community
of the Imperials.
So we see he tells them that, he wants them to surrender. And he also tells them that he's going to go get Baby Yoda right now. And we see 2 speeder bikes, which I think are the coolest vehicles in the Star Wars universe.
I mean, they're clearly necessary to get anywhere you need to get to.
Yes.
Yes, because otherwise it takes days.
Yeah, otherwise. Yeah.
Or
you got a bird and you can
racing
ride that thing out fast.
towards Wheel.
Which was a really cool scene.
It was really cool.
Very dramatic.
Now, here's when I first watched the episode, right? The episode ends, like these guys were saying, with Quill killed and the Stormtroopers flying off with Baby Yoda.
How did they hit him?
Unknown. That is a very interesting question. Well, I thought because of that and because of some other things, I thought IG-11 had betrayed him.
They kind of painted it that way. Like,
because
our worst fears are true.
He's getting to the ship, and do you see IG-11 come out?
You do not.
Or he's still in the ship, but you know that he's there.
Right.
And then the next scene,
Which surprises me. It's the world's worst nanny. Who doesn't come to the door when their kid to be babysat is about to be dropped off?
Well, and this is where the episode ends with Quill smoking corpse.
Yep. Speeders off on the horizon.
Gina Carano and Apollo Creed stuck inside of a bar with a death squad and squadrons of stormtroopers outside, and that's the cliffhanger they left us on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and to me, this episode was a 4. Like to me, there was not really any low points other than the ones I kind of hit on. The flying pterodactyl. Like, come on, these things are out there. Bring firepower.
They remind me of the ones from. What is episode? Is it 4 when they end up inside the thing's mouth in the asteroid?
Episode 5 is the Empire Strikes Back.
So 5. Yes. It reminds me of those things that are inside there when they're like, is this a cave? It's kind of mushy in here. Minox, they kind of look like bigger versions of those.
They just chew on power cables, though. That was...
maybe they figured out these are a little bit more juicy and tasty than power cables.
No, but just... to what Josh has kind of been saying the whole time.
Right.
Inconsistencies in the logic and...
There's also the point where Carl Weathers is inside the thing, like, trying to negotiate... turning over the kid.
Yeah.
And he's like, let me open. He's asleep. And the guy's like,
he starts
wake him up. Yeah. He's like, well, we can't do that.
Coming, honey.
There was a period there where it was like, why didn't they throw comedic relief into that scene?
It was good.
That could have been a suspenseful scene.
It could have
that
been.
led into Moff
Gideon,
Gideon coming down.
I prefer Goff Midian.
But I feel like it just took it out. It took you out of the suspense of the moment.
Yeah.
In an unnecessary way. And
that's the truth.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So for me, it was a 4.5. It was good. It wasn't great, but it was close. Like there was, some logic,
right,
which I kind of have to take and throw out of when you're watching science fantasy and these different things, you kind of got to throw them away.
I give it a 4.
Yeah, you give it a 4.
3.5.
3.5. Okay.
I didn't hate it. I don't think it progressed the story. Well, okay.
No.
I think it was necessary to overall progress the story, but I didn't think it progressed any of the specific characters.
No. None of the characters had any growth in the episode whatsoever, but it moved the story along very nicely. And now,
and it introduced Moff Gideon, which I think is one of the better characters.
Golf Midian. The season finale.
It actually sounds like
Golf Midian,
who I think is the best possible.
Like head bad guy. Like this is the guy that.
No, it brings you some. Yeah, some feel.
No, this is a good point. It's a very good point. So, all right, we start off episode 8, and I have
held up.
They're still being held up.
Still negotiating. The baby's asleep.
And no. Here's the best part. So this negotiation's going on, and that was like, okay, this negotiation's going on, whatever. But these 2 stormtroopers have parked outside of town. They're going to wait for the all clear.
Oh my gosh!
Before they can come into town, which I don't know.
You think they're done yet?
I don't know. That's a typical military tactic. If you have I don't know what they call it, like a care packet or like this is a hot commodity. Like this thing is, we need to get this thing under control. Yeah. They're like, nope, we're going to wait out here in the middle of nowhere. No.
Okay.
The stormtrooper is going well, I want to see it. Like this back and forth about seeing.
You already saw it.
It is not a good tactic at all. Like militaristically, we literally have places that you can call at a moment's notice that you can drive into as a secure location. Drive all the way into the secure location and then you stop. You don't bring the whatever package it is and just stand there and wait.
It was probably the best top 5 minutes of the entire series.
I also agree that it was a great scene.
It was
because
amazing.
they did it.
Because here's what happens that made it amazing. Okay, number one.
First off, the two guys that do it are Filoni and one of the other directors. Are the two people playing
that are playing those characters.
Oh, okay.
So they do a great job, and they literally portray stormtroopers as kind of like these buddies, like tough guys.
They tighten up when the brass are around, but they're kind of loose. Yeah.
I'm sorry, it was Jason Sudeikis and Adam Pally.
Gotcha.
Okay. So they have there's a can or something sitting off, and they pull out their blasters and try to shoot it.
I love how he straightens up like I'm leaning too hard on my scooter here.
Like 5 feet away.
Yeah, several times and miss wildly
every time.
And just to me, that was like,
and
that
was
just
now
stick it back.
It was hilarious. It was funny. I don't agree with it.
Yeah,
I don't think that it should have been in the Star Wars.
To me, it was priceless. It was fan service for fan service.
Yeah, it couldn't get any funnier.
And then the other part to me, and I don't know why,
it made something canon that I don't want to be canon. I don't want Stormtroopers to actually be.
And that's the thing. Like you parallel it with the last 5 minutes of the previous episode, and all the good guys who can actually show up, and it's like, ooh, you guys couldn't do your job.
So the other part that kind of got me, and I agree, and I think it was just those two guys. I think maybe it was just these two guys that maybe they're having a rough time.
Yeah.
The other part was they're arguing back and forth about seeing Baby Yoda. So they open up the sack to see Baby Yoda, and Baby Yoda he bites him, doesn't he?
He does.
He bites him, and then
maybe it's his pet.
And then my favorite moment, the stormtrooper punches.
I know you hear him squeal a little bit. And I'm just
not like a slap.
First, the one guy's trying to see him. He's trying to get the other guy to open the pouch, and then the other guy slaps the pouch to get him to stop wiggling, and that's when the guy's like, "Well, you hit him pretty hard. He hasn't made sound in a while.
Okay.
Let's look at it." And that's how he gets to look at it. But yeah, they hit him like 3 times in that series.
This is nuts, man.
Which
I'm like,
again,
where's your force choke?
Is not okay.
Maybe it's his pet.
No. So
it's hilarious.
It is,
but
hilarious.
It's not okay.
Yeah. And as they're slapping and punching at the Baby Yoda, in walks my favorite character, IG-11, and he nannies this thing right up immediately.
He does.
He proceeds, and you have to watch. If you not watch this,
it's a great sequence as he comes into town.
He pretty much tells the stormtroopers, "Hey, please knock that off."
Mm-hmm.
He says, "You need to stop doing this.
Yes. You need to give me Baby Yoda."
Yes,
and they don't.
He becomes the pacifier.
That one, he grabs one of the stormtroopers' arms and twists it in a way that to this day I have nightmares about.
Is that nasty to you?
We're lucky this show is rated like PG because otherwise,
not any blood at all.
No, that guy's arm would have exploded in a million pieces. And then the nanny death machine IG-11 gets on the speeder bike.
He slams the other guy's head into the speeder bike enough to bend the frame of it.
He's not messing around when it comes to.
He hasn't forgotten some of the things he was wired to do.
No doubt. So he gets on a speeder bike and rides into town as the cavalry, and he literally doesn't have any arms on the controls. This is what I'm trying to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
Has no arms on the controls. Both arms out with guns in hands, and he's just wasting.
And Baby Yoda is just smiling, wind in the face, like, this is amazing.
Baby Yoda's strapped to his belly, and then, right when he goes into the middle of a firefight, he rotates his midriff around, so Baby Yoda's behind him.
And he's just
amazing.
He literally just John Wicks everyone
so much,
in sight.
So
his target recognition is insane.
Yep.
Insane. He is a robot. So he comes to the rescue, and because of his arrival, the heroes are able to try to make their way outside of this bar that they're trapped in. Why they ever did that?
They find the sewer cap and...
No.
Then we see them
they make bad decisions again.
Very poor decisions.
Instead
of having... Mandalorian's like, hey, Gina. I don't remember.
No, it's Gina Carano.
Yeah, I know, but
yeah.
Cover me. And so she like stands up right in front of
the
where the hole that they were just trying to stay away from and starts firing. And he walks outside. It's like, why?
Yep.
What do you benefit by going outside at this point? IG-11's taking care of business.
Right,
it's
like,
fine.
just stay out of his way.
No,
and I really believe that because the Mandalorian went out there, and IG-11 is kind of like, I gotta look out for him now, too. IG-11 kind of falters, he gets shot. There's some things that are happening here. We get a cool scene with the Mandalorian picking up a minigun.
Which was very short-lived, but... I get it. You don't want too much triumph in that moment.
But we also see the intelligence of the Moff. I'm sorry, of Goff.
Goff Gideon.
Goff
Midian.
Moff Gideon. Yeah, we see Goff Midian and his intelligence because everyone else is just dying in front of this minigun as the Mandalorian. They're trying to randomly shoot at him as they're getting shot. He looks and sees the ammo bunk or the power supply and shoots that. Yeah, rather than, I'm not going to shoot this guy. I'm not going to try to
Actually, he does shoot him once.
He does.
He shoots him in the back of the head and he turns around and then
shoots the ammo dump and it explodes.
Gun to a Beskar steel fight.
That's right. And so we end up with all the heroes back inside the bar. And
they're like...
With Mando hurt.
With Mando injured, yes.
And then they're like, we're going to smoke him out.
Right. So they send in the flame stormtrooper. Whatever. Here's my thing. If you want Baby Yoda alive, why do you send someone in to barbecue everyone?
I mean, maybe he got to the point where the client was like, "Oh, you can bring him in dead if you want." Like that sort of deal.
This is one of these things.
Maybe this become more. It's become more pain than what it's worth.
Okay, so if you hear the guy outside, you're like, "Hey, smoke him out," and then you see a guy with the flamethrower come in, and you've got guns. Shoot him! He
and shoot him some more.
He's like blowing flames across the entrance.
Like I feel like we've seen this in a movie where it's
and they're like, "Oh no, he's coming!"
Yes,
and then like they're waiting for the thing, which has to happen.
Yep, Baby Yoda
has to save him,
blocking all the flames.
So
scorching his little tiny. Three nubbed
his hand.
So hard.
He stands there and he waves at the flamethrowing stormtrooper.
Force says be gone.
Yeah,
and it basically just puts a force barrier to stop the fire.
Yeah,
which is something within his power, probably within a power range of other feats that we've seen him do. But it's just like why?
Yeah.
Why do they have to keep setting up these moments where Yoda has to save them just to have Yoda be functional, like in the show?
But then you see IG-11 take as long as he did to get that like sewer cap off or whatever. I'm just like,
time out.
Can you just like force rip that thing up and like?
Okay, his force powers aren't that strong, right? He's able to crush trachea. And
I'm talking a couple bolts here, but
it wasn't bolts. It was
actually. If you remember, they had already gone through the process of shooting it with the Gatling gun.
Yeah, they tried to pull it.
Yeah, I remember that.
What had to happen was IG-11 had to use his torch and torch through the thing. And torching through anything is not a quick process. Especially if it's any kind of depth to it or a thickness to it whatsoever.
I saw Count Dooku take a gigantic column of some sort and move it quite easily, and Yoda stop it from crushing.
Anakin. You're talking about like 800-year-old Yoda.
Okay, and I'm talking about a grate that's no bigger than this table we're sitting at. I'm just like,
whatever.
Okay,
let's poke it on. Let's get to the good stuff.
So we get in the sewer.
No.
Before the sewer.
Everyone gets in the sewer.
Plasma cutters can
No, they can, but there's connections. No. You're right. So we get all the heroes down into the sewer, except for the Mandalorian, who's gravely injured, and who, even when he is injured, and this to me spoke to some of the things we talked to you in the past. Will not take off his helmet.
Right, stays true.
He's like, nope.
Gina's like, I need to take off your helmet.
Yeah,
to see, to help. He's like, no. I'd rather just stay here and die.
Yep, I'm gonna die. Like this is
take care of my boy.
Off. Yep.
That is way.
Yep. And so they all go down in the sewer, and IG-11 takes his helmet off.
I'm not really alive. Let me operate on you.
and gives him some kind of Bacta infusion.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "This
which
will
is
heal
pretty
you."
dope. I liked that part. That's some force healing I can get behind.
And I can too. I was like, okay, I'm okay with this. And then they all go down the sewer and they go up and they meet with my
So
the
I've
armor.
got a question. How does the Bacta healing does that work from the inside the body out? Is it just like in
it's like stem cells?
It looked like it was a spray near his head that let him walk again.
This is a good question because in the past, when we've had any kind of Bacta anything, Luke Skywalker was in the Bacta tank in Empire
and
Strikes
fully
Back.
immersed.
Yeah, he was soaked in it, and he had tubes connected to him, so we're not really sure what was going on there. So,
and Darth, I think, is supposed to sleep inside a Bacta tank.
Right, to try to mitigate some of the damage that he did. So, yeah, that's a good question.
But anyway.
No. They go down to the sewer, and they're walking around, and they find a room, because the Mandalorians say, if we can find all the other Mandalorians, we can make them.
Yeah.
We can make some things happen. They find a room with a stack of Mandalorian helmets, not attached to any Mandalorians.
My favorite scene of this.
Really? The finding that all the Mandalorians have been
they had to
slaughtered?
reveal
Not
themselves.
them, but the whole scene around.
Okay. So they run into the armor, right? Who is one of the coolest characters.
Cements her dopeness
in this
in that moment.
She gifts
Yes.
the Mandalorian
The jetpack.
First off, she's taking all of the remains from these other Mandalorians that are dead, taking their armor, and she's just slowly over time smelting them down.
Yep.
Making stuff out of them.
And
apparently has made a jetpack out of them.
Yep. They ask her why won't you leave? And she says, I can't leave.
Yep.
Till all this
informs them about the Jedi. Oh, these magical powers you're talking about. Like, I know what this is.
Yeah, she said they're an old enemy. Right. An old enemy of a bunch of wizards.
Yeah.
Right.
That, yeah.
But she also says that this is not
an enemy.
Mm-hmm. This is a foundling.
Yep.
And you must take care of him.
Yep. Now
you are
and
his daddy.
She gives us the rules finally.
Yep.
Which is cool to see.
Yeah.
It kind of pieces together the flashback
until you find him back to his people.
You get him back to his people, or you once he comes of age,
Mm-hmm.
you start training him.
Yep.
Which is a cool moment. You see him, get the jetpack. You'll learn to use it better. And it was cool to see that part come into after we saw the flashback of them coming down and saving him as a kid inside that bunker. And then he gets his signet of the Mudhorn.
The Mudhorn.
Your favorite.
Here's
your favorite encounter.
Here's my thing though: is I'm really excited to see. Well, not Baby Yoda anymore, but a little Mandalorian, armored up.
Right? Yoda-lorian.
Yes.
Yoda-lorian.
But so she tells the Mandalorian,
Yoda-lorian.
she gives the Mandalorian his jetpack, tells him to leave. So they leave, and the part that like Jalen is talking about, that we all want to see a group of stormtroopers happen upon the armorer. And
no! Actually, before that happens, the armorer tells IG-11, go defend us while we talk.
I heard what you did out there.
And then IG-11 walks outside, and then you hear a bunch of gunfighter. He walks back in. You're defended.
Yeah, they're done with this. No, but you see a group of stormtroopers coming upon her, and without any, I would say, weapons. She uses
she takes her smoldering devices.
2 hammers,
or maybe a pair of pliers and a hammer.
Yeah, and she makes very short work of these stormtroopers. And a very cool scene, very cool. One of the
I think it cements her for her place of what she did, because I kind of felt like she was like a leader, but obviously she really wasn't. But something about what she does is to be respected, and she's gonna stick around in the story, which I'm looking forward to.
So our heroes keep marching, and they find a boat on a lava river, and they're like, "Okay, if we can take this, which
I don't trust droids.
Can we not even talk about this?
Okay? Can we let? I know. Are you talking about what I'm thinking about?
No. I'm talking about the boat on the lava river.
It's possible.
Okay.
If it's some kind of material we don't know.
Obviously, they use it on Mustafar. They're gonna have something
out of anybody who's near it.
Hey, Jalen, what happens when you take
Jalen?
No, Jalen.
No, yeah, he knows better.
when you take your pan, which doesn't melt, and you put it on the stove and you heat it up, what happens?
Really hot.
Oh, so if you were to stand in said pan,
I'm just saying, there's coating for certain things. Like your handle doesn't get too hot while it's on that hot stove, so you're a little depending on how it's built.
All right,
Maybe it's that freaky C-3PO with the long legs keeping it.
C-3PO.
From my understanding,
It was a
droid.
R2 unit.
R2
unit. Sorry, not C-3PO.
My understanding is the steam coming off of magma would melt your eyeballs.
That's the truth.
It's not like this is something we could just walk.
I was hoping for a high ground reference at some point through that tunnel.
There was a little bit.
There was.
So there's a. Jalen was trying.
Can we talk about the R2D2 like you? I don't know what it was.
It was an R2 unit.
It was just had arms and legs.
So yes,
it had arms and legs.
It did.
Yeah.
So this unit looked like R2D2, or an R4 or something like. It was an R unit from Star Wars, and it was covered in like slag. And they get in
just like.
Yeah, they get into this boat, and they're trying to get the boat to move. They manually push the boat, and I can't remember how they activate the R2 unit.
Just whenever it starts to move, he activates.
And it stands up, and this R2 unit is 10 feet tall.
Yeah, he's like the Wilt Chamberlain of our units.
Arms and legs, and you're kind of like, is this R2 unit going to help them? Is he going to toss them off the boat?
Yep.
He's just a boat rower.
Yep, he just the boat rower. He just takes his.
He reminds me of the ferryman, kind of like they're going toward their doom. Sort of
that's
deal.
right.
Like that was very symbolic.
That's what they call it, the magma.
Ferry.
The magma ferry. That's what they call them.
So he takes his big metal rod and he sticks it in the lava and pushes them down.
It's some material that doesn't burn, apparently.
Yeah.
And as they're going, they realize that as they exit this lava tunnel that they're in, that there's an ambush waiting for them. And they kind of look and they go, well, they have the high ground, they have the choke point. We're not going to make it. And my boy, IG Danny 11, says, you know what, I got this. I
must self-detonate.
So he gets out,
self-destruct,
and he walks out in the lava.
Very cool moment.
Whatever. And as he goes out, he blows himself up.
But then I hate how Mando's like, no, you're not that bad. You really were rewired. You don't have to do this. Like, I've found love for you.
So and he's like, you don't have to be sad for me.
Right.
He's like, I'm not sad. I can hear it in your voice.
You're crying.
It was the cheesiest.
It was, and that's what one of the things that keeps this episode from being perfect.
Right.
Is it's like, so this IG-11 that he killed.
Without hesitation.
Yeah. Has helped him out of two situations now has overcame years of hatred, a lifetime hatred of droids.
I want to go back one real second to the last episode. One of the things that we did see was he continuously kills droids by shooting them in the same spot as he originally shot IG-11. I actually think that it's a weak spot in the droids that he knows about, where he can shoot them specifically on the back side of their head. That kills them.
They're done.
That is interesting. I didn't even catch that. Good point. I did not catch that. That is interesting.
But you see that several times. I caught it when I was rewatching. And I wanted to bring it up, but I forgot about it.
No, that's good. That's good.
So IG-11 detonates because his manufacturer says that. And here's another thing that kind of struck me as odd. If he's been fully reprogrammed, this shouldn't matter anymore. He says, my manufacturer dictates I can't be caught.
Maybe there's like some base software that Queel didn't really change. Because he still knew how to shoot, too. It didn't teach him how to hold a rifle.
True. So he self-destructs, and they're able to escape this tunnel. And they get back on land. And who do we see? Good old Goff Midian in his TIE fighter coming to mow him down.
Yep. And then a moment that I didn't expect. Like, I didn't really expect him to use the jetpack right away.
Before that, Carl Weathers looks at Baby Yoda and says, do your hand thing. Do your hand wavy thing.
He does do that. And
I actually really liked that. I thought that was hilarious.
But I would be it's kind of like in a video game. You find an attack that is really effective, and you go, I'm going to spam that button.
I totally believed it. That's what made it go. That's why I didn't hate it when it happened.
Do it.
It didn't seem like it was an out of place, but it actually seemed like something that he might actually do. Like,
we're in some deep stuff here. Why don't you use that hand?
I think when she said I forget the charge that she gave him when the armor gave him when he got it. There's something to the extent of like you have to like let it become something with you, or like it almost seemed like you can't use it to its fullest potential yet. Like it's another step in your maturation.
You have to go through
the training.
Through it's like a kata, I guess, or some kind of a.
So I didn't expect him to immediately use. Not that it was wrong or anything. I didn't know if anybody else didn't expect it.
No, I did. As soon as he got it, I'm like, oh, he's using that thing. Like,
He did the same thing with the whistling bird.
He did, yeah.
It's like she was like, "Don't use this unless the worst extreme circumstances." And 5 minutes later,
like he was like, use it in normal combat, of course.
But one of the things I did like about it, he activates it. You see Moff Gideon, he activates the jetpack, and they're just flaming there until he gets close.
Yep.
And then he just flies straight up.
Yep.
He's not able to control it. He's not able to guide it. He uses his grappling hook to attach to the TIE fighter to bring him there. So he's not. It's showing that even though he's using it, he's not
skilled with it.
Right.
Yeah. No, that was a good point. So he puts a charge of some kind of explosive device on the TIE fighter.
Knocks
it explodes. Mandalorian comes back down. The TIE fighter
invites him back. Says, "Hey, come back to the guild." No. We have to get out of here.
Yep, we gotta leave.
But Dune stays behind to be his new muscle.
Yep. So.
And then.
All right. So. I don't know about you guys, but there's only one person in the Star Wars universe that I can think of that survived a crash of the magnitude that Goff Midian had, and walked away from it. And that user or that pilot was Luke Skywalker, right? In Empire Strikes Back, when he crashed on Hoth.
There's
and Dagobah,
and then in the most recent movie,
but Moff Gideon's got a new TIE fighter. Maybe he's got some new security tech.
Adam Driver did the same thing whenever. What's her?
Oh yeah, no.
Kylo survived it whenever.
Ray
got the
maybe it's new airbags.
Maybe I don't know.
Maybe they're just well protected internals.
So he pokes. We see a vibroblade poke out of the side.
It's not a vibroblade.
What is it?
This is the dark saber.
What is that?
All right.
I'm glad. I have no clue. Let's go.
Okay, so this was introduced.
I didn't know he didn't know.
Come on, bring me the
go ahead.
So this was introduced in which one was it?
I think it was Rebels.
The Rebels, yeah. So
that's why.
It was introduced.
I had to start
Rebels.
watching it over.
It was the blade of Mandalore. It was created to fight the Jedi. It was the only blade that they could use against the lightsabers.
Whoever wields it is in charge of the Mandalorian.
Whoever wields it is the leader of the Mandalorians.
Really?
Is actually Mandalore, which is a title now.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
But that is what he had. That was the significance. I thought it was just like, oh, this is just cool.
So like there was
some
cheer in me.
There are such things as vibroblades, which would look like the vibro knife that Mandalorian uses, which you just see him vibrate.
Okay.
This is something.
This has been through so much. Like I don't know where they're going to possibly take this in its next step, but he somehow came into ownership of it.
Probably from Grand Moff Tarkin.
Right.
It would probably be where it would have come from. Grand Moff Tarkin is the big bad of the Rebels.
Right.
He is the only character in the Star Wars lore outside of maybe just totally mind blanking. The Emperor, outside of Palpatine, outside of Palpatine, that has shown this really keen mind, able to predict the enemy's movements, fine detail beforehand and stuff like that. You see that in Rebels. And that's Grand Moff Tarkin. Moff Gideon has that, seems like he's taking that kind of role. And you're kind of seeing that, which I think is pretty cool.
So, all right.
So you should be really excited for that.
Lowest point. I am now. I'm like, okay, wow, there's even more lore to this. So, all right, lowest point of the episode. Go.
Baby Yoda holding off.
I agree. I would almost agree with that.
We mentioned it, but the cushy moment between IG-11 and
that was pretty bad.
I just feel like it was just charging to triumphant death, and we get out there and kick some more butt. But
no. And I would say both of those scenes to me keep this episode from being, and some things like the boat And the just
I don't know why you. I feel like we see that in.
Ridiculous.
I know there's more things that float around the lava that we see in the previous movies. But,
well, there is episode 3. The whole ending scene of that.
No,
they're jumping on droids that are riding inside the lava.
They have shields though.
And then yeah, they do.
They have
which is what I'm saying. It's almost
and then
like,
when they turn the shields off, that's when that whole thing starts to sink into the lava.
But there's also like, I don't want to call it a mill, but there's certain points where we see the lava waterfall of sorts is around structure that clearly isn't melting and falling into the lava. So I would like to think there is a material that can withstand that heat, because they got platforms that are going over this stuff, right? So
maybe.
All right.
Best part of the episode, I'll start this one off. IG-11 mowing down just everyone that was in his path. To me, that's kind of like, that's what this droid was designed for. And out of all the characters, he's kind of been the most consistent.
For sure.
Out of all of them in his portrayal.
Moff Gideon the Darksaber, like hands down, that took what was already a great episode and a great season and like unleashed into,
kicked it up.
Hey, we're about to go out into some things that you might not have expected. And I'm glad it's bringing stories that are like the Rebels and the Clone Wars that a lot of people didn't watch and pay attention to. Like, I'm guilty. I'm going back and watching through now.
Right. There's
a lot of great content there that can be explored.
I actually agree with Jalen. I'm gonna say like that is what made me excited to watch the next season.
Okay.
When I wouldn't have been if it wasn't.
I couldn't think of what they could possibly do to carry over. Right.
If it wasn't for Moff Gideon, I wouldn't have been nearly as excited about the next season.
That makes sense.
Which I do expect for next season. Now that we're getting into predictions, I do expect a slow start, but a lot more like beefier story. I feel like they had to lay a foundation. Get all that craziness out. But
hold on. Let's go this route. Go this route. So tell me your rating for the episode, okay, and then tell me your predictions for the next season. So we kind of keep it, minute or two.
My rating for this episode would be a 4.
4. Okay.
I think this was probably.
Okay. Now, what are your predictions for the next season?
I don't know. I feel like they're gonna go periodical, like the first 3 quarters of the season again. I feel like you'll see some stuff happen in the background with Moff Gideon now.
Okay.
That
he'll become like a character that.
You'll see things happen from his perspective. I think some.
Okay.
And I think that they'll meet ahead at the end of the season.
So it'll come.
And it's actually, I feel like the arcs are gonna be very similar to what the Rebels arcs were.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Okay. Jalen?
I think we'll see some time jump more significant. Oh, sorry. Yeah. 4. Give it a 4. Sorry, I had said in my head while he was talking, trying to retain my thoughts. Like I said, I think it'll be a slow start to the season. I think we'll get a sizable time jump. Some time's gonna pass, like we saw between episode 4, 5, and 6. Obviously, someone gets a little bit stronger, maybe a little bit older, not significantly. He's not going to be like 100 years or 150 years old or something. But I think we'll see a little bit more toddler-esque than what we see now, or not even toddler. Like,
what would be? He's going to be getting into more shenanigans.
I wouldn't say shenanigans, but I think he'll be more aware. I think there'll be a competency to Baby Yoda that we haven't gotten a chance to see yet. Eventually, through the next season. Ultimately, to get to the point where we start seeing the framework for a First Order, because I don't think that Moff Gideon is a puppet here to what we eventually.
How do you see that being possible? Sorry.
No.
You're good. I don't want to interrupt you.
No. Hold on.
I want to know how it would be possible for Yoda to evolve. He's already probably 2 to 3 times as old as the Mandalorian is.
Right.
And within the Mandalorian's lifespan, how does he mature?
Right. I'm not saying he's going to be.
He only seems to have matured to maybe like.
Which I think that's going to play into some of the inconsistency, but there's also the training aspect of the youngling.
Okay, so this episode for me was like a 4.75. Like, it was really good. There was some minor things that kind of kept it from being great. Season 2, here's how it ends. Right, I agree with yours that we're going to see Moff Gideon and the Mandalorian. We're going to kind of see their parallel journeys, and they're going to come to a head. But the final scene of episode whatever of this season is going to be the Mandalorian, because Baby Yoda can't become the.
Let's just call it. There's only going to be 4 episodes. We'll just call it. We'll just say 4 episodes.
So the Mandalorian is the title of the show. He's the main character.
The longest one will be 20.
the Mandalorian has to become the focus of the story.
For sure.
He drops off Baby Yoda, and we get the episode that brings in the most viewers ever to Luke Skywalker at Luke Skywalker's Training Academy. And that's how he fulfills his debt, because the Baby Yoda is a Jedi. He's dropping him off with his people, the Jedi.
One of the things is the builder lady. I can't think of the armorer. Sorry, I'm totally mind blanking on names and things. One of the things is that she never mentions the Sith. She only mentions the Jedi.
Yeah, and she says, and I think that he will seek out the Jedi because that's how he. We don't know Yoda's race or Baby Yoda's race, right? The Mandalorian doesn't, because he's like, everyone's always like, what is this thing? Now he has something, he knows what he is. He is a Jedi.
Right.
And I think they're going to tie more of that. That's how you're going to see this connection.
I can agree with that.
And it'll give all the fans something like Peter Pan's like, oh my goodness, Mark Hamill is
You think that they will actually bring Mark Hamill in?
Oh yeah, I think they will, because I think Mark Hamill caught some real disservice in The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker.
So I could see that writing some
wrongs. I think they're going to give him
hypothetically.
a moment to shine.
No, I can agree. But I do think he'll be a lot more competent.
I disagree.
I'm not talking like, hey, we're having conversations, how are we going to stake this place out? You go around the back, you go around the side.
I'm worried that it's going to become more like, kind of like the Baby's Toddler 2, where the kid's like, oh no, where's Baby Yoda now? He's up in a tree.
I really hope not. I can't do a whole season of that.
Yeah, no, I can't either, and that's why I think they're going to redeem it with...
I think I'm done with Baby.
I agree.
Mostly. Maybe not... bring him back later on, but...
Drop him off with Luke Skywalker, give me that episode, and then have the Mandalorian go do some cool stuff.
Yeah.
Well, alright. Speaking of cool stuff, guys, this episode has been amazing.
It
really has. We covered this whole... The Mandalorian, we covered every episode. We ranked every episode.
I actually want to hear you guys' rankings this season.
Okay, so on a scale of 1 to 5.
Sorry, I know
No,
you were trying to cut it.
I was. For me, actually, I'll let you start. You go ahead and start.
I'm going to say 3.5.
Okay.
I was going to say for a pilot season, I'd give it a 4.
Yeah, I'm gonna split the difference. To me, it was a 3.75 because there were episodes that I was like,
I love those points.
I was like, I am done watching this show. Like, this show is dumb. And then the next episode would reel me right back in. So to me, it was kind of like an average pilot. It fulfilled its purpose, but just a little bit better. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah.
So I've got other questions too.
All right. Well, next week. We're going to be talking Scott Pilgrim. All right?
I do need to watch Scott Pilgrim.
You're going to have to watch Scott Pilgrim. We're going to talk about Scott Pilgrim. We're going to break it down. We're going to give our thoughts. We're going to give our opinions. We're actually going to also, this one goes out to all the exes out there. We're going to be discussing all of our evil exes. We're going to air that laundry. That's right. Oh, yeah. Here we go.
Very short list.
Well... For you, it may be a short list. For the rest of us,
we're going to be... Never mind. I'm not even going to get into it.
All right. Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and thank our fans. Thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for hopefully enjoying the content out there. If you like what you're hearing, if you don't like what you're hearing, either way, leave us a review on iTunes. Like us, rate us. That's how we get noticed, how we move up or down in the world. You can also find us on Spotify, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. If you want to hear us talk about a movie or a TV show or something in pop culture that we haven't talked about yet, hit us up on our Facebook page, send us a message, or post it on our page. We'll be more than happy to go ahead and discuss that. And please check us out every Thursday on Twitch. Josh, what is that channel again?
Twitch.tv/Ioun, IOUN.
There it is. I want to go ahead and thank Josh. I want to go ahead and thank Jalen.
Yes, sir.
And as always, you guys can take it or leave it.